Hey there, Improv Tipsters. Welcome back to Improv Tips, where I and some of the best improvisers in the world give you improv tips and advice to make you a better, more confident, and happier improviser wherever you are in your improv journey. I am, as always, your host, Paul Vaillancourt. Let's begin. Now, today, I want to talk about something that I think is the linchpin of all great scenes, and that is, of course, relationship. Well, a few weeks ago, I got an email from Jason Farr, the host of the There It Is podcast. Side note, I was a guest on the podcast a little while ago. The ding link is down below. You can check that out. And he was saying that he was writing a new blog about relationship in improv. And he asked me if I would answer a few questions. And I thought, well, gosh, a chance to shoot my mouth off about improv. I don't mind if I do. So I did. And that, along with some great insights from Jairus Donovan, who did this improv tip a little while ago, became this blog. The full blog, is linked down below, so you can check that out. But as I was answering his questions, I thought, my gosh, wouldn't this make a great improv tip? So that brings us to today. Before I get into this tip, though, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel and liking this video, commenting on this video. Let me know what you think about the channel or what's happening in this video or what you're thinking about in improv. That's what I'm really, really interested about. So Jason posed 3 questions for this blog. 1, how do you define relationship in improv? 2, why is relationship so important in improv? And 3, how do you play relationship in your scene? Question number 1. How do I define relationship in improv? Well, I think it's a super important question because I think it sort of sets the stage for everything that comes afterwards, right? First, a lot of times when we're talking about relationship in improv, we're talking about who the people are to each other, like the label of that idea, like mother-daughter, co-workers, best friends, or whatever, right? And those are all fine, but those really aren't, for my money, the relationship, right? Those are who they are to each other. That's a great label. But the real motor, the real action of that relationship is how they relate to each other, how they relate to each other, right? And so we can do different mother-daughter scenes. Let's say we're doing a scene about a mother helping her daughter get ready for her wedding. All right. We can do 20 different versions of that scene, and all those are different versions of that scene depending on how the mother and daughter relate to each other. It could be the overbearing mother and the shy daughter. That's one kind of scene about that idea. It could be the overbearing daughter and the shy mother. That's another version of that scene, right? It could be a hard-charging go-getter of a mom and a pessimistic daughter. That's another version of that scene. And all those scenes, the same basic idea, mother-daughter, all those relationships will be different because of the way that those two relate to each other. And all those scenes, as a consequence, will be different because of how those two relate to each other, okay? The label, mother-daughter, gives that scene context, but it's the way they relate to each other that's the real motor of that scene. Question 2. Why is relationship so important in improv? Well, it's because we're people. And as people, we relate to other people relating to other people, right? So we see something in them, in their relationship, that we see in ourselves. They're questing for love. We want love. They're having a struggle. We have a struggle. They've achieved something. We've achieved something, right? We understand that. That's how we connect to the scene, right? There's a reason that the movie Titanic has grossed over $2 billion and documentaries about the Titanic have not, right? The love story, the relationship between Jack and Rose capture the hearts and imaginations of millions of people in a way that the simple retelling of the events of the sinking of the Titanic hasn't and can't, because we don't see ourselves in events. We see ourselves in people and what they're doing, right? So it's not just the clever events and then that propels that scene forward. It's those characters affecting and being affected by each other that draws us in and pulls us and the scene forward. If we don't have that emotional, interpersonal connection, then it's just and it's just jokes, and it's just events, and that doesn't capture us in the same way that that relationship does. Finally, question 3. How do you play relationship in the scene? Now, this is really the crux of it all, isn't it? How do we play relationship? Well, if you've been watching improv tips at all, then you won't be surprised to know that I'm going to say that it starts with giving big playable gifts at the top of the scene, right? We come into the scene and maybe I say to my partner, "You're so optimistic." And maybe my partner says to me, "You're so greedy." Now, those 2 big playable gifts are going to influence and form our characters. My partner is going to be an optimistic person. They're going to act and think and do in an optimistic way. And I'm greedy, so I'm going to act and think and do in a greedy way, right? And then as we go along, we can play that relationship by playing those characters. And also, I can help my partner by trying to give them opportunities and things to be optimistic about. And they can give me help by giving me opportunities and things and situations to be greedy about. And those 2 things, scenes, those two characters, those two dynamics rubbing up against each other is going to catch fire, and that is what the scene is going to be about. So to pull it all together, by giving those big playable gifts, playing those gifts, helping each other play those gifts, we're going to move the scene forward, and we're also going to affect and be affected by each other. And that's really the goal of the scene, is seeing those two people affect and be affected by each other in their relationship. Okay? If you want to learn more about relationship, check out this playlist, ding ding, that I made. It's a bunch of tips about playing relationship. And if you want to see a different video, just ding ding, check out this one. That's coming right up. I'll see you next week.